Hi everybody, welcome back to the studio. I'm your instructor Tim Gagno, and this is lesson number 1 of the classical drawing atelier program, Cubes, Spheres, and Geometric Visualization. Almost everything you see can be simplified into the basic shapes of cubes and spheres. Squares, rectangles, circles, ellipses. Learning to draw these shapes in various angles is absolutely essential to capturing the likeness of any subject in a drawing. Geometry teaches us something really cool, and that's that a circle fits perfectly inside of a square. And that's going to be used for the rest of your drawing life. So drawing a circle step by step isn't that difficult. If you've ever tried to draw a circle just by willy-nilly, try to draw a circle. Matter of fact, grab a pencil, grab a pen, doesn't matter, and try to draw a perfect circle, and you are totally going to not make a perfect circle. Very few people can draw a circle. Your circle might be close, but it ain't going to be perfect. So how do you draw a nearly perfect circle every time? Well, it's real simple. You start by drawing a square. So that's step 1, draw a square. Step 2, you're going to draw lines from the corners to the adjacent corners so that you create an X symbol. Once you have that X symbol, you go to the next part, step 3, and you're going to draw a horizontal and a vertical line in the center to basically make a plus symbol. So what you're going to be left with is you're going to be left with a square that has like pizza pie shapes in it or pie shapes in it. That's what you're going to look like, little triangles all the way around it, pointing to the center. It's going to look like an X with a plus symbol in the middle. Now, once you have that, now you can create your circle from that, because a circle will touch at the top, the bottom, and the two sides. It's going to touch. Every single time it's going to touch. And so all you have to do is draw from one to the next corner, from that corner to the bottom, from the bottom to the corner, and from the corner back to the top. And you don't have to worry about the whole circle. You can go section by section. Now here's another interesting little trick that you can do. If you take from the center point and you measure the distance from the center point up to the top of the square, and then you turn it so that your finger is still in the center, and you put this one on the diagonal line, if you put a mark right there, that's where the circle should be on those side or non-vertical and horizontal lines, the lines that are the X part. That line you can mark from the same distance from the center to the top, or the center to the bottom, or the center to the two sides. That distance, if you apply that from the center to the X sides and you make a mark, that's where the circle should be. So then you only have to worry about drawing from the top and curving to one of the angled lines and right at that point. And then you go from that point to the side center, and then you do that all the way around. And if you do that, you will have a perfect circle every single time. So let's go ahead and let's watch this demo of me drawing an actual circle, and you'll see what I mean. Now that you know how to draw a circle inside of a square, an effective way to create ellipses from any angle is to first draw a cube with the correct angles, or draw a square at an angle. And so a circle drawn within the sides of a cube will always be correct. In other words, you're going to have the perfect ellipse every time if your square is in the right perspective. So if you draw a cube, which is a bunch of squares on all different sides, if you can draw a cube, if you draw a circle inside all of the sides in the cube, following the process of how to draw a circle inside of a square, you will create ellipses in the correct angle every single time. So it's really powerful. And the reason that it's important is because of things like I'm drawing a car with 4 wheels. How do I draw the tires at the right angles? This is how you do it. So let's go ahead and watch this video that will explain how you can create correct ellipses from every single angle by first drawing a cube and the correct angle. Okay, so we're going to start by drawing our basic cube in almost proper perspective, a little loose here with our perspective. We're going to be learning more about perspective in the next lesson. This is 2-point perspective, but you can see a cube or a rectangular object. It's not necessarily a perfect cube, but it is in 2-point perspective, meaning that we can see 3 sides, the top and 2 sides. Now we're going to draw our grid in the proper perspective. You can see our grids right there. And by having the grid in the proper perspective, we can fit our ellipse in there, which will make it in the proper perspective as well. It's not so easy drawing a circle in the proper perspective. It's very easy to draw a square in the proper perspective, and therefore a circle can be put, or an ellipse or an oval shape can be put into proper perspective quite easily with this method. Every time you're going to get a tire or a wheel or a circle that is in the proper perspective. So you can see here, each one of the circles or ellipses is in the proper perspective based on the plane of the cube that they are on, top, bottom, and sides. So here we have another box-like shape in 3-point perspective, a little loose here again. I've drawn through, meaning that if you think about it like a piece of glass, you can see on the inside of it. There's the grid at the top, and then here's a grid at the bottom. Now with this in mind, all we have to do is draw our circle inside of the top square and on the bottom square. So the bottom and the top circles are in the correct perspective and alignment. All we have to do is connect the lines, and we have a cylinder where the top part, the top and the bottom curve are aligned with each other. They're both correct. A lot of times when we're drawing, if we do this freehand, you're drawing cylinder shapes, like I say a soda can, the top curve and the bottom curve won't be the same, and it will throw the object off. But by oversimplifying it, by starting with the cube shape, you can draw a cylinder in the proper perspective every single time from any angle. All right, so here's exercise 1, everybody. Your first exercise in this course. You're going to simply draw a bunch of ellipses and a bunch of cubes. I want you to draw as many cubes as you can from all kinds of different angles, and I want you to draw ellipses within the sides of each of those cubes. Now, drawing a precise ellipse is an identical process to drawing a precise circle. Instead of a square, draw a rectangle and segment it the same exact way. Draw the ellipse within the confines the same way as the circle inside the square. To draw the ellipse in perspective, first draw a rectangle in proper perspective. So draw a bunch of rectangles in every way, shape, form you can, and then you're going to just create the spheres inside of that. You're going to create your ellipses inside of that by following the drawing a circle inside of the square method. With enough experience, ellipses can be drawn skillfully without needing to draw the cube first. The trick to this is obviously practice, practice, practice. But the biggest mistakes inexperienced artists make when drawing ellipses are the corners. A lot of times the edges will be too sharp, or one side will be rounded and the other side will be pointy. Remember, an ellipse is simply a circle viewed in perspective, making it appear as an oval shape. And so what I want you to do is just give it a try. Draw a bunch of ellipses freehand. Just go for it. Draw as many as you can. You can see here in this example how they look. And so this is exercise 2. I want you to draw ellipses inside of rectangles and quadrilaterals, and I also want you to draw a bunch of ellipses freehand. Just fill your paper up, fill them up, fill them up, fill them up. That is exercise 2 in today's chapter. The next thing we're going to talk about is geometric visualization. And basically what this means is geometry creates the world, okay? And I really mean that, because it doesn't matter what you're looking at. It doesn't matter if it's a person, a car, a building, a tree, a hippopotamus, a giraffe, a bird. It doesn't matter what you're looking at. You can break that object into very basic geometric shapes. What are those shapes? It's real simple. It's a square, it's a circle, it's a triangle, and it's a rectangle. Those objects can create every object in the world. When we think of them in 3 dimensions, you want to look at the square as a cube. You want to think of the circle as a sphere, like a ball. The triangle can actually be broken up into 2 shapes, a pyramid or a cone. And the rectangle can either be a stretched out cube or a cylinder. So that's what they look like in 3 dimensions. So these shapes also become a mass in 3 dimensions. Now what's interesting is this. You can draw any shape, any of these 3-dimensional objects can be drawn by first creating a square. From a square, you can turn it into a cube, and from a cube, you can turn it into a cylinder, you can turn it into a cone, you can turn it into a sphere, you can turn it into a pyramid, simply by starting with the cube. Now, using geometric visualization, any complex object can be simplified into its component basic shapes. So you have a cup here. You can just look at that coffee cup. You go, oh, it's a simple coffee cup. But when you look at it, it's a cylinder with an ellipse. The handle is an ellipse. The top is an ellipse. It's a giant cylinder shape. It's very simple. We look at this lighthouse. It's basically a cone with a bunch of cylinders around it. And then the little house underneath the lighthouse tower is basically cubes with a bunch of triangles on it. Very simple. When we look in the bottom of this car, you can see before you draw those sharp rounded edges of the car, if you look at it, you simply have a box or a cube on top of another cube. It's a box on top of a box. And if you look at how the wheels were created, you have a cube with circles inside of it in the correct perspective joined together, and you have the wheels of the vehicle. Geometric visualization, when you look at an object, try to break it down into simple, less complex shapes. Again, here's another example. You have this beautiful Jeep Rubicon. Look at the tires. You can see how the circle inside of the square, when you put the squares in the right perspective, at the right angle, you get the tires perfect because the front tire is turned, the back tire is at a different angle. To get that circle to be correct, you can wing it, but it'll most likely be wrong. But if you create the square first, which is much easier to do at the right angle, the circle, or in this case, the wheels of the vehicle, the tires of the vehicle, will be easy to create. Here's an example of using geometric visualization to look at a simple still life. You have a bottle of shampoo or conditioner, you have a tissue box, we have a fruit, and then we have a soda bottle. And when you look at them with simple geometric shapes, you can see cones, cylinders, circles, and cubes. That's how you want to, in your initial stages of drawing, keep it this simple. Don't overthink what you're drawing. Break it down into its very basic geometric shapes, and from that, you can build to a more complex drawing. It doesn't matter if you're drawing this lion. Look at this lion and look at the geometric shapes in it. We have a cone. We have another cone that's a little more wider. And then we have an oval, another oval, and his head is a cube in perspective. But that's really all you need. If you start that simple, the lion will be there eventually, but it will have correct proportions, which is great. Then when you look at this picture of a person, cylinders, cubes, and spheres. Look at the person. You can see how this person was built with very basic geometric shapes. It doesn't matter what we're looking at. If you simplify it, you can draw it. It may not look exactly like this person looks more like a robot, but from that robot, you can draw a person that looks very realistic. Start simple, start vague, start loose, start light, and tighten up as you go. Too many artists start tight and detailed. And what happens is they get like one eye that looks great. They get the nose right, and then the ear's wrong, or the other eye is wrong, or the mouth isn't right. But because they've been drawing so dark and so detailed, they can't even erase anymore. So what do they end up doing? They end up crumbling up their paper, throwing it over the shoulder, grabbing a new piece of paper, trying again, having the same thing happen over and over and over again until you have a giant pile of crumbled up paper on the ground beneath you, and you have a head filled with frustration. But if you start vague and very loose, and you tighten your drawing up as you go, you have success almost every time. So based off of that, let's take a look at our simple objects here on the screen. We have our lighthouse. We have our coffee cup. We have a bunch of, I don't know if that's brandy or rum. I'm not a big drinker. I don't know. But you got some bottles of stuff in there. And you have a VW bug. These are some objects that you can try to draw, but I don't want you to draw them detailed. I want you to draw these in basic, simple, geometric shapes like that still life with the Pepsi bottle. Very simple. Here's another one that you can draw from. You have a rubber ducky and you have a toy horse. A little bit more complex, but break it down into their simple geometric shapes and it'll work out fabulous for you. And so we're going to watch a demo video here of myself drawing a few things and showing you how you can take complex objects and simplify them into their basic component shapes to allow you to bring it to a tighter finished drawing. And so exercise 3 is I want you to draw some objects, but only draw them as simplified shapes. Draw like a wine bottle or a coffee mug, a milk carton. If you're feeling brave, draw the car, the rubber ducky, or the horse, but only use basic geometric shapes. I don't want to see an eye. I don't want to see a hoof. I don't want to see a beak on a rubber ducky. Just circle for the head, oval for the body, maybe a little arch for the wing if it's the rubber ducky. That simple stuff. Don't overthink this. Be really, really loose in your drawings. And then for homework, this is what you're going to do. And these are the assignments that I want you to upload into either the comments section or email them to us at homework@gagnoatelier.com. Homework assignment number 1, I want you to draw a bunch of ellipses and cubes. Draw as many cubes as you can from multiple angles, and then draw ellipses or circles inside all of the sides of the cube. Try and get those circles to be at all the right angles as well. Homework assignment number 2, I want you to draw ellipses inside of rectangles from every angle imaginable, but also freehand. Just wing the ellipses. Wing it. Fill up a page. Let me see them. Try to make sure that both sides are equal. So the roundness over here doesn't want to have a point on the other side. Try to keep both sides the same on your ellipse. And then homework number 3 is I want you to draw various objects in simplified shapes. Wine bottle, coffee mug. If you're feeling brave, do the car, the rubber ducky, or the horse. But using only the basic geometric shapes. There's no need to put details like eyes, ears, hubcaps, or anything like that, depending on what you're drawing. Just very basic geometric shapes. And when you're done, email it to homework@gagnoatelier.com or upload your image to the comment section, and then you will receive your critiques.